Ever wonder what the future of manufacturing looks like? Forget sci-fi fantasies. We're on the cusp of a real-life revolution. We're talking Industry 4.0 and the factory of the future.
Mm.
And you sent over some, well, fascinating articles and research on this, and honestly, I'm ready to just dive in.
Well, it really is an exciting space to be in, that's for sure. What really piqued your interest?
I think, honestly, it's this whole idea of smart factories. Like everything interconnected, data driving decisions, machines practically thinking for themselves. It feels like something out of a movie, but it's becoming our reality.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the flashiness of it all, right? But you're right to focus on that smart aspect. That's key here. It's not about robots taking over. It's about making factories smarter, way more efficient, and more responsive than ever before.
So let's break it down, right? We hear these buzzwords, Industry 4.0, the factory of the future. What does they really mean?
Think of it as like the next chapter in the story that's been unfolding for centuries, right? We went from like steam engines and water wheels, then to mass production, those assembly lines, then computers and automation came along, and those changed the game again.
Right. And each one of those shifts completely revolutionized how we make things.
Exactly. And Industry 4.0, this is the next, I guess, the next logical step in that evolution. It's all about interconnected systems, data flowing everywhere, intelligent automation kind of working behind the scenes.
That's where this whole smart factory thing comes in. Everything's talking to everything else.
You got it. Like the Internet of Things, but specifically for the factory floor. It's, they call it the Industrial Internet of Things, or IoT. We're talking sensors on pretty much everything, just collecting tons of data to optimize the whole production process.
That just sounds like a data overload waiting to happen. I mean, how do you even begin to make sense of it all?
Well, and that's where things get really interesting. We're not just collecting data just to have it. It's about turning that data into, like, actionable intelligence. Think of the 4 V's: volume, velocity, variety, and veracity. Industry 4.0 relies on harnessing all 4 of those to improve everything. Efficiency, quality, you name it.
Can you give me an example? Like, how does that actually, play out in the real world?
Sure. Say there's a sensor on a machine, right? And it picks up this slight temperature change. In the past, that might have been ignored, right? Until the machine actually malfunctioned. And that would mean, costly downtime.
Oh, been there. Experienced that. Not fun.
Right. But with Industry 4.0, that sensor data, it's analyzed like immediately in real time. The system can actually predict, it can predict a breakdown and alert someone to fix it before the problem even, happens.
So it's like having a crystal ball, but for machines.
Yeah, exactly. And this doesn't just apply to individual machines either. Industry 4.0 can connect entire factory floors, even global supply chains, in a way that's just way more transparent, more responsive.
Okay, so that's Industry 4.0, a pretty massive shift on its own. But then we're also hearing a lot about this Industry 5.0. How does that fit in?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting. See, Industry 4.0, it can feel very focused on automation, almost to the point of replacing humans entirely, right? But Industry 5.0 takes a step back and it's like, hold on, what about the human element?
So it's not this humans versus machines thing. It's more about how they can actually work better together.
Exactly. Collaboration, that's what Industry 5.0 is all about. Robots and humans, they both have their strengths, right? Like robots, they excel at repetitive tasks, that precision data processing. But humans, we bring that creativity, the critical thinking, complex problem-solving skills. When you can bring those two forces together, but thoughtfully, you can achieve some pretty incredible things.
That makes a lot of sense. What about the environmental impact of all of this?
Oh, absolutely. And that's another crucial piece of Industry 5.0, the sustainability aspect. It's about how can we make factories greener, more efficient? How do we minimize their environmental footprint,
So it's not just about making things faster and cheaper, but making them better in a way that benefits everyone in the long run.
Absolutely. It's a more, I guess you could say, a more holistic approach to manufacturing. It's about prioritizing people, the planet, and, the profit.
This is already a lot to process, and we've only really just scratched the surface. Maybe we should pause here for a second before we dive into the actual technologies themselves. All right, so we've established that Industry 4.0 is all about data, collecting it, analyzing it, using it to make smarter decisions.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier that even having all that data, it can be overwhelming, right? Too much of a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, trying to drink from a fire hose. There's just so much of it. That's why the digital infrastructure, the stuff that underpins everything, that's just as important as the data itself.
Okay, that makes sense. So what does that actually look like? What kind of infrastructure are we talking about?
Well, think of a modern factory as relying on two main things. You've got the cloud and you got the edge. The cloud, that's fantastic for the big picture stuff,
Yeah.
storing huge amounts of data, running those really complex analytics, and of course connecting different parts of the supply chain.
So it's like the brain of the whole operation.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But then you've got edge computing. And that's where things get really interesting. See, the cloud is great for the overall strategy, right? But sometimes you need decisions made like instantly, right there on the factory floor. And that's where edge computing comes in.
So it's like having a mini brain right there where the action is.
Exactly. Edge computing puts the processing power closer to the machines, closer to the sensors. And that's super important for those tasks, that are really time sensitive, things that can't wait for the data to be sent all the way to the cloud and back.
Okay, starting to get the picture here. But give me an example. How would this actually work in a real factory?
Sure, imagine a quality control system, right? But it's real time, so you have a camera, and it's inspecting products as they come down the production line. With edge computing, that image analysis, it happens right then and there. So if the system spots a defect, it can flag it immediately. It can even trigger a robot to, remove that faulty product from the line right then and there.
Wow, that is fast. No more waiting for the data to go back and forth to some data center, who knows where.
Exactly. That speed, it's crucial in a modern factory. Every second counts, right? And it's not just quality control. It helps with things like predictive maintenance, too. Finding those problems early can save a lot of downtime, a lot of money.
This is amazing. So many interconnected systems. You mentioned IoT earlier, the industrial Internet of Things.
Yeah.
What makes that different from the regular Internet of Things? We've all got smart refrigerators and stuff now, right?
Yeah, but think of IoT as the industrial strength version of those. It's got to be way more rugged to survive in a factory, right? We're talking extreme temperatures sometimes, vibrations, electromagnetic interference, all sorts of things your average smart thermostat doesn't have to deal with.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how does IoT relate to those cyber physical systems, those CBPS things that we talked about before?
Well, you can think of IoT as the foundation. It's what enables those cyber-physical systems because it connects all those machines and sensors. And CPPS, that's what bridges the gap between the physical world and the digital world, It lets the machines actually talk to each other. They use that data to make their own decisions based on what's happening in real time.
So it's not just collecting data, it's about the machines using that data to get smarter, more autonomous.
You got it. And it's not just theoretical either. This is really happening. One example that comes to mind, it's the ADI Trinamic Motor Controller. They've got this ROS1 driver. What it does is it allows for really advanced motion control, but seamlessly integrated into those robot operating systems.
So what does that mean in plain English?
It means those robots can perform these incredibly precise movements incredibly efficiently. It's a total game changer for a lot of industries. Manufacturing, obviously, where every millimeter matters.
Okay, I think it's all starting to click now, how all these pieces fit together. The cloud, that's like the brain power.
Yeah.
Then edge computing, that brings the speed, that responsiveness. And then IIoT is what ties everything together, but in a really secure and robust way.
It's like a symphony of technology. Every part has its role to play, and then together they create something pretty amazing.
Okay, let's talk about the data itself a bit more. We talked about those 4 V's of big data: the volume, velocity, variety, and veracity. But what's the key to actually using all of that data and using it in a way that actually benefits the factory?
Well, that's where the real magic happens, and that's with AI and machine learning.
The buzzwords of the century, right?
I know. Everyone's talking about them. But there's a good reason for it. AI and machine learning, those are the tools that can actually make sense of all that data. They can find patterns we might miss, make predictions about how things are going to perform in the future, help factories just operate more efficiently, more effectively than we could ever do on our own.
All right, give me some solid examples. How is this actually playing out?
Take predictive maintenance, for instance. We talked about that before. But with AI, those algorithms can analyze all that historical data, all those sensor readings, and they can get really good at predicting when a machine's going to fail. That means you can do maintenance before it breaks down. So you're reducing that downtime, you're extending the lifespan of that equipment. No more just reacting to problems or guessing when something needs to be fixed.
That is seriously smart, saving time, saving money. What other cool applications are out there? I mean, what else can AI do in the factory of the future?
We're talking quality control systems that use AI to spot those tiny little defects, the ones that a person might miss. AI can optimize production schedules, manage inventory, even personalize products, like really tailor them to what a customer wants.
It's like all this stuff we thought was science fiction just a few years ago, it's real now.
It does feel that way, doesn't it? But it's not science fiction, it's happening. These technologies they're being implemented in factories all over the place. And as AI and machine learning keep evolving, we're just going to see more and more transformative applications.
This is all really exciting, but let's come back down to earth for a second.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about the how, like the technology, the skills, but what about the who? Are there even enough people out there who know how to do all of this, like build these systems, manage them?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is, though. It feels like we're talking about a whole new way of working. Are people even ready for this?
That's the challenge, right? We can talk about all this amazing technology, but if you don't have the people who can actually use it, design it, manage it, it's not going to work. It's a whole different skill set that's needed now.
So someone listening right now, and they're thinking, okay, this all sounds incredible, but where do I fit into all of this?
Yeah.
What advice would you give them? Like, is it all coding and algorithms now? Is that what people need to learn?
Well, knowing how to code definitely doesn't hurt. Let's put it that way. But it's bigger than that. I mean, think about it. Someone needs to be able to look at all that data coming in from the sensors and actually understand what it means, right? That's data analytics. That's huge. And then you've got all this connectivity, so cybersecurity. That's more important than ever.
So many different areas of expertise.
Oh, absolutely. And we can't forget about the human element either. We're talking about robots and humans working together side by side. That means you need people who can communicate really well, who are good at solving problems, adapting to new situations.
It's interesting. It's almost like the skills are splitting.
Yeah.
You need the super technical side, but then you also need really strong human skills. You need both sides of your brain working.
That's a great way to put it. And companies are trying to figure this out right now. How do they upskill their existing workforce? How do they retrain people? Some are investing in training programs, partnering with schools and colleges. Some are even creating their own internal academies just to teach these skills because they're so in demand.
This is starting to feel like it's even bigger than just manufacturing, right? This is impacting jobs and skills across so many different industries.
Oh, 100%. It's like a ripple effect. Think about the logistics companies, right? They need to be able to work with these smart factories. Software developers, obviously, they're the ones building the AI algorithms. Even marketing, they need to understand how to sell these customized products that are being made.
Okay, so let's zoom out even further then. We talked about the how, like the technology, the skills, but what about the why? What are the real tangible benefits we can expect to see from all of this? From this whole Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0 revolution, what's it going to look like?
Well, imagine a world where everything is made on demand. It's tailored to your exact needs. Like you need a new phone case, but you want a very specific design, no problem. You want a car, but you want certain features, personalized just for you. Easy. That's the power of these flexible production lines.
That's a far cry from the old days of just mass-produced, one-size-fits-all products, right? What about the environmental impact of all of this? This feels like it has the potential to be so much more sustainable.
You're absolutely right. And that's a really key point here. Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0, it's not just about making things faster or cheaper. It's about making things better for everyone. So imagine factories that use AI to optimize their energy usage, to minimize the amount of waste they produce, to even choose the materials that have the least impact on the environment. That's the promise of truly sustainable manufacturing.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But this is a lot to wrap our heads around. Is there a simpler way to think about it? Like the overall impact of this whole shift?
I think it comes down to this. We're moving from a world of just making a ton of stuff to a world where we can make anything personalized for whoever needs it, and we can do it in a way that's actually good for the planet. It's a win-win-win.
A win for businesses, a win for consumers, a win for the planet. That's a future I think we can all get behind.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the factory of the future, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from this conversation?
I think the most important thing to remember is that this isn't some far-off dream, This is happening right now, and it's creating incredible opportunities for everyone. Whether you're a student trying to decide what to study, an employee who wants to learn new skills, or even just someone who's curious about what the future holds, the key is to stay curious. Never stop learning. Be ready to adapt because things are changing fast.
I love that. Such an important reminder. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with me. I feel like I've learned a ton.
It's been my pleasure. I could talk about the future of manufacturing all day.
And for you listening, we hope this has sparked your curiosity and given you plenty to think about. Until next time.